right, there's some audio. How about that for audio? All right, we're back. Excellent, excellent. Okay, my friends, while we are repopulating here, I'm going to pull this up on the big screen here. We don't need that anymore. Here's what we do need. We need our play along. Yeah, I was saying our play along song of the night. We need, let me make sure I got that here. This, and we need this. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Here it comes. Our play along song of the night from the pen of J.J. Cale, Crazy Mama. Some of you know this song. Some of you don't know this song. Either way, it's all good. What a great song. So I'm going to vamp for a minute. Remind you that we are definitely not sponsored by Norton Brothers apple cider made from Connecticut-grown apples. Norton Brothers going back to 1757. Holy cow, am I reading that right? Norton Brothers Fruit Farm. Cheshire, Connecticut. Very nice. Wet my whistle. Okay, so while we are repopulating here, you can see on your screen, Crazy Mama is very straightforward. What you see is what you get right there. You might be saying, okay, well, where's the song? That is the song. So 24, right? 24 is a great number of viewers. By the way, William Collier made a super chat donation earlier, and I forgot to mention that he did that. And I want to say, Bill, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Super chats are one way you can support what we do here. It keeps me in big black pens and paper. So thank you. Caddis, I'm reading your comment here. Sam Blue scale. Yeah, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, my intention, Caddis, was that the extended scale is the blues and the major scale glued together. But I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Yep. All, it's all just one big merger. Okay, so I'm going to try, as I often do, to keep this preparation very short so we can go right into the tune. The two things you need are this riff also known as the E shuffle. 2 2 4 2 2 2 4 2. My index is staying kind of clamped down, gently clamped down on the 5th string, 2nd fret. I'm strumming the 2 bass strings. After 2 strums, my ring finger, you could use your pinky, reaches up to the 5th string, 4th fret for 1 strum, and then back to just my index finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret. No matter what, the open 6th fat E string is joining in the fun no matter what. 2 2 4 4. Okay, the other thing that you need for this song are those 3 chords: D, A, E. Okay, now that takes care of your left hand. That's what your left hand is going to be doing for this entire song. Little bit of trivia. As it says under the title, the J.J. Cale original version requires you to put a capo behind the 2nd fret if you want to play along with his version. Great. The song was covered on a recording by the band known as The Band. To play along with their version, like it says, put a capo behind the 3rd fret. Tom Petty and his band covered this song on a live recording, and you need no capo to play along with Tom Petty. and his band. Everything else is the same, but you don't need a capo to play along with Tom Petty's live version. It's very possible there's many more covers of this song because it's a great song and it's pretty simple. The Rolling Stones do a different song called Crazy Mama. I was so disappointed. I thought, oh, I was going through all the different songs called Crazy Mama, and I thought it was going to be the Rolling Stones covering this tune. Totally different song called Crazy Mama by the Rolling Stones. Too bad. Oh, well. So now we're just about ready to get up and running and play this, but there's some details that you want to know about. I'm going to take it a smidgen slower than J.J. Cale's original, but it's a slow tune anyways. Crazy Mama. We're going to go about that speed. Where you been so long? By the way, my picking hand, I'm keeping a close, I'm kind of monitoring the duration, how long those notes last by some palm muting. If I didn't do that, it would sound like this. A little too jangly for what I'm going for what J.J. Cale was going for. Okay, now here, this is a big deal. I hope you're listening. This is a big deal. Those chords at the bottom, all upstrokes. Very important because it gives you the right timing and the right feeling. It might be weird for you to do 8 upstrokes in a row. You have to do it. It is a huge part of the charm of the tune. Those upstrokes happen on the upbeat of every measure, of every downbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? If someone were counting like that, you'd be strumming up every time they said and. Some of you might enjoy this image. If you're tapping your foot, I'm going to tap on the mic stand for a minute. Maybe you can hear that. Maybe it's a little bit too loud. I don't know. If that's my downbeat, 2, 3, 4. The upbeat is literally when my foot comes up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, I love every aspect of this song, but that's one of the things I love about it is how he's choosing to emphasize those upbeats. By the way, that chord sequence, when he does it, it happens 4 times, okay? Quick aside, for some reason, which is lost on me, 100% lost on me, those 2 cover versions by the band and Tom Petty, they don't do that cool upbeat thing. They go 1, 2, here it comes. Hear the difference? Downbeat, downbeat. Like, why did they change that? I mean, if it were just the band, I'd say, well, that's kind of weird. But then Tom Petty and his band did the same thing, the exact opposite of what's written on the page here, the exact opposite of what J.J. Cale did. Clearly, it's a matter of taste. It has nothing to do with anyone's abilities. If you've never heard the song before, the value of those upstrokes on the upbeats will become apparent. And I can't imagine why someone would, of all the things to change, there's not much to this song, but of all the things to change, why would you change that, you know? I don't know. Okay, so I'm ready if you're ready. What we have here is the E shuffle. You might say, how many times do I do that? There's just a repeat sign. And I have no idea. All I know is that at the end of the verse, crazy mama, I sure need you. Crazy mama, where you been so long? At the end of the verse, when he says, where you been so long, that's your cue to perk up and start thinking about how the song is about to ease into the. Okay, at the end of the verse. I'm not being very scientific, but that's intentional. I don't want you to sit and count once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Oh, you make yourself crazy and you miss everything that's going on in the song. Remember, our goal right now is to set you up to practice along with the original recording or the other guys' cover versions. The goal is not perfection tonight, it's to prepare you, right? To get you started. Okay, I think I'm ready. If you're ready, the song, I mean, it's that E shuffle. By the way, that's named, the reason that's called the E shuffle is nicknamed after the open E string. See, I put that big capital E there at the bottom of the tab. The E shuffle is the heart of the song. That's all you do for the entire verse. And then it goes into the chords. There's no singing during the chords, it's just a very cool interlude. And then the whole thing starts again. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to scooch this over. 30 people. Love it. Thank you guys for migrating over here to Livestream 72.1. Okay. I'll see you on the other side. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Crazy mama, where you been so long? Crazy mama, where you been so long? You've been hiding out, I know that's true. Crazy mama, should need you. Crazy mama, where you been so long? 1, 2, 3. Standing on the corner, looking for you, man. Standing on the corner, looking for your man. Lord mercy, can I see crazy mama coming after me? Crazy mama, where you been so long? 1, 2, 3. All right. See why that song made the cut? What you see is what you get. Simple and straightforward. Hey, I have to mention, what I just did there is how the song goes. J.J. Cale overdubs so much tasteful lead guitar playing. In case you wonder like what my taste is in lead guitar playing, this song, man, I love what he does in this song so much. Check out the original version, you know, just very tasteful, interesting, unexpected sounds, but still right there in whatever vein of music you want to call this. Is it blues? Yeah. Is it rock and roll? Yeah. Is it kind of country-ish? I don't know. Kinda. It's J.J. Cale, man. Pride of Oklahoma. J.J. Cale. It almost it's like there's almost not even a song there, right? It's like, where'd it go? And yet, who's covering it? Tom Petty's covering it. The band is covering it. I mean, these guys, they could cover other songs, right? You know, if people like that are covering your song, you did something right, you know. And of course, you guys know J.J. Cale is the guy who wrote After Midnight and Cocaine and Call Me the Breeze. He wrote a lot of other songs, a lot of great songs, but many of us, that's how he came to our consciousness, was finding out that he wrote those songs for Eric Clapton, or he wrote them and Eric Clapton covered them. And Lynyrd Skynyrd's version of Call Me the Breeze, I'm sure that paid for gas and groceries for a few decades right there. So yeah, J.J. Cale. Okay. Do I have anything else I want to say about this? Oh, to solo along with this, you could play an E blues scale, but I tell you what, an E major pentatonic scale fits this song really well, because this song it's not a hardcore blues tune by any means. So if you are comfortable zipping in between an E minor pentatonic or an E blues scale and an E major pentatonic, here's your chance. Just to whet your appetite, the pattern I call the headquarters pattern. I'm going to put it up at 12, and then I'm going to move it back to 9. So an E minor pentatonic, 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15. Okay, there's the headquarters pattern based at 12 in E minor pentatonic. You could use that for this song, or you could move it backwards 3 frets. Remember this beautiful rule? What was a minor pentatonic? Backwards 3 frets. It's a major pentatonic, still called E, an E major pentatonic. Here it was an E minor pentatonic. Move it back 3 frets. So you're starting on 9. It is now an E major pentatonic, as long as you retain the same form. Instead of 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, blah, 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 it's 9, 12, 9, 11, 9, 11, 9, 11, 9, 12, 9, 12, an E major pentatonic. Same fingers, same form, but based at 9 instead of 12. Don't take my word for it. Crank up. Oh, do this with Tom Petty's version, because Tom Petty's version does not need a capo. So you could do this with Tom Petty's version. J.J. Cale's version, don't forget, like it says at the top there, to do this piece of this lesson plan along with J.J. Cale, you have to have the capo at the 2nd fret, as he almost certainly did. I'd be shocked if he didn't have that. Well, actually, I have no idea. You know, who knows? But I'd be surprised if he didn't have the capo on there. Then what I just said does not apply, because it'd have to be 2 frets higher to accommodate the fact that he's capoed up 2 frets higher. So that thing about lead guitar, do that with Tom Petty's version. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, what do you think of that, you guys? Easy peasy? Let me know in the chat. Always curious where you guys are at in the chat. So there you go. Our song of the week. So before we were so rudely interrupted, I was saying that I just, these live streams in general, they keep getting demonetized because of what just happened there, because everyone wants their cut of the money. I don't know. So it's likely in the future, this particular part of the live stream, I might have to move this over to a members only Patreon kind of thing, because there's no sense in doing all this stuff only to have the live stream demonetized because of an educational 15-minute thing like that. I don't know. It's not worth fighting the power over that, but it is frustrating for me. Anyways, enjoy it. Crazy Mama by good old J.J. Cale. All right, you guys. Scott, you have fun with that, Scott? Yeah, I hope so. Hope so. Okay. So now, don't go anywhere. As long as there's a little more cider, I'm here for a little bit more time. Hey, speaking of the blues, can I sing the blues with you guys for a second? I mentioned earlier, I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to share something different. I mentioned earlier that this music festival happened right in my state. Connecticut is not a very big state, right? And somehow no one told me about it. And it was so disappointing. because it looks so cool. So check this out. See that right there? The Pedal Steel Guitar Association had a very cool thing last weekend. I was alive and well last weekend. In fact, I could have zipped out to Darien, Connecticut right after our live stream. I could have made it there in time to catch one of my favorites, Red Volkaert. Can you guys see that on the screen right there? Look at that. I mean, now Darien, Connecticut, right there. Darien, Connecticut is a little over an hour away from where I am. I am willing to drive an hour for Red Volkaert, one of the best Telecaster players, just classic chicken picking stuff. $10? Are you kidding me? $10 to see Red Volkaert and the band known as Gunsmoke? Oh man, I would have gone there. Red Volkaert was Merle Haggard's guitar player for a long time. Anyways, so how did this festival happen? A pedal steel guitar festival. And you can see Sunday, a whole lot of stuff happening on Sunday with, see who I'm pointing at right there? Cindy Cashdollar. Are you kidding me? Oh man. And as if that didn't break my heart enough, look what I'm pointing at right there. There's a pizza truck. You guys have pizza trucks? Is that a New England thing? We got pizza trucks. Oh man. Pizza trucks that they do all the pizza making right within the vehicle. They have pizza ovens and everything. They crank out all these awesome kind of boutique pizzas way beyond pepperoni and onions. I mean, amazing. Anyways, okay. So there you go. That kind of broke my heart. How did I not know about this? Maybe it's for the best. I would have ended up buying a pedal steel. See at the bottom, there were like vendors and stuff. People could sell stuff there. Oh man, I probably would have ended up buying a pedal steel, which is not in the budget at the moment. Anyways, that kind of broke my heart. So now I know. I don't know if they always do this in Connecticut. The Pedal Steel Guitar Association. Holy cow. Saturday night, and then Sunday, all sorts of workshops and stuff. What a bummer. Okay, so thank you for hearing my tale of woe. How does that happen? Like I said, I think something, and advertisements for that item start popping up in my social media. How do they not think I'd be interested in pedal steel guitar conventions, an hour away from me? Come on, man. What a bummer. Okay, so yeah, DAC Poet says, so you can play the piece with capo on 2 or on 3 or no capo. Exactly. Depends whose version you're playing along with. One more time for the record, to play along with Tom Petty's live version, no capo. To play along with the band called The Band, their studio version, capo at 3. And J.J. Cale's original version, which is the one I recommend the highest for lots of reasons, capo on the 2nd fret to play along with his version. You got it. So there you go. Okay. I'm going to close a couple of my windows. When our live stream gets interrupted, there are times in the past when it might have been operator error on my part. That was not the case tonight. It was what it was. So I appreciate your patience, you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna take a moment. Now I'm getting hungry talking about this pizza trucks. Ooh, tonight is leftover Chinese food night. I'm already thinking about it. I've been thinking about it all day. The Chinese food we had last night was so good. And I did the adult thing, and I stepped away. Instead of trying to eat all of it all at once, I stepped away from the plate. And that means there's some left tonight. Leftovers are a beautiful thing, but leftover Chinese food is really, really good. Oh, man. Okay. So I'm going through my paper trail here. I want to make sure that the things that I prepared were the things you enjoyed. Ooh, now it's time for a good one. For you songwriters, or those of you who are curious as to how songs get put together. Let's do this thing. Okay. 2-5-1 chord progressions. Now, this is not going to be a physical challenge for many of you. And that's great. Okay. Again, your screen might go black for a second. Don't freak out. Okay. 2-5-1 chord progressions. We're going to talk about, here we go, we're going to talk about playing them, but we're also going to talk about what they are and why I would go to the trouble of introducing this concept to you guys. Okay, so I did 3 keys there. Scott Rhodes says, put leftover Chinese food in a taco. Everything's good in a taco. You know what? I can't argue with that. I don't know if I'll be doing that tonight, but that's not a crazy idea whatsoever. Okay, so let's take this at face value. A minor to D7 to G. And then 2 other versions in 2 different keys. Physically, I bet a lot of you folks can play that right now. No stress, no F chords, no bar chords, just pretty straightforward stuff. You may already know songs off the top of your head that use those chords in that sequence. And that's great because then we will add to your musicality by talking about the music theory. For those of you who maybe have not played those chords in that order before, tonight's night, I want to bring a couple things to your attention. We'll talk about the name in a minute, the 2-5-1 business. We'll talk about that name. But what I want you to notice is A minor going to D7. Your pointer finger stays right where it is. That is not a coincidence. Going down to the bottom, D minor, D as in Delta, going to G7. Again, the pointer finger is in the same place. In fact, you specifically want to keep that finger down when you change from D minor to G7. Do not lift that pointer finger away. Okay, that is not a coincidence. On E minor to A7, I could sort of prove the same thing if we do E minor with your first 2 fingers, index and middle, and then A7, keep that middle finger on the 4th string and add the ring finger, 2nd string, 2nd fret for the A7. If I wanted to just prove how, anytime you go from the 2 chord to the 5 chord, so to speak, 1 finger stays down. The reason I'm not saying that's mandatory on the E minor to A7 is those are 2 of maybe they are the 2 easiest possible chords. So you can really use whatever finger you want for either chord. And it's hard to mess up going from E minor to A7, right? It's hard to mess that up, I hope, right? So it's not as crucial that you keep 1 finger in place. Whereas the A minor to D7, you really got to keep that index finger down, and the D minor to G7, keep those fingers down. Okay, so if all you want to do is pick up a little tip for writing songs, any one of those 3 chord progressions are great for writing songs. I would encourage you to think of the 3rd chord, A minor to D7 to G, the 3rd chord as the key we're in. So that's your home base. A minor to D7 to G, we're in the key of G. That's how I encourage you to think. If it's weird for you to begin a song on the A minor and then D7 to G, then start on the G chord, and from G go to A minor to D7 to G. If you like that better, I mean, that's fine. That would be called a 1-2-5-1 chord progression. But the bottom line is, there's 3. You can write 3 songs right there with those 3 chord progressions. Maybe strum them each a little bit differently so that they don't all sound the same, right? I mean, they're going to start to sound the same because each one is a 2-5-1 chord progression. Okay, so let's talk about why they are called a 2-5-1 chord progression. And I'm going to use the one at the bottom as an example: D minor to G7 to C. 2-5-1. These are just nicknames. That's all they are, nicknames. D minor to G7 to C. Take my word for this. We are in the key of C at this moment. Therefore, we nickname the C chord the 1 chord. Take my word for it, okay? We're in the key of C, call C the 1 chord, not a shock, right? Okay, so why is D minor to G7 to C called a 2-5-1 chord progression? In the key of C, because that's the world we're in right now, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, the C major scale. The first note of the C major scale is C, duh. The second note of a C major scale is D. That's why we nickname the D minor chord the 2 chord. If C is the 1 chord, D minor is the 2 chord. You might say, well, what if instead of D minor, I played D major or D7 or whatever? We would still give it the nickname the 2 chord in this context. But we're going to stick with D minor. And G7 is nicknamed the 5 chord because C, D, E, F, G. The G note is the 5th note of a C major scale. Therefore, we nickname the G7 chord the 5 chord. Again, you might say, well, what if I just play regular G? Nickname stands. It's still the 5 chord. You might say, what if I play G minor? It's still called the 5 chord. So at the very top of the page, Roman numerals, you guys good with Roman numerals? You down with them? Because the D minor chord is a minor chord, we write the Roman numeral as 2 little lowercase i's, that's all. The G7, because it's a 7 chord, we use a big V, capital V Roman numeral because it's not minor, but we put that little 7 right there to indicate that it's not just a G major, that's specifically a G7 chord. You okay? This is just conventional stuff. Don't overthink this. This is just how teachers like me are supposed to write this stuff down. And C is the 1 chord, so big Roman numeral 1 right there. That's all. Okay, so you guys good with this? In the key of G here up at the top of the page, G is the 1 chord, A minor is the 2 chord, D7 is the 5 chord, so 2, 5, 1, A minor, D7, G. In the key of D, D is the 1 chord, E minor is the 2 chord, A7 is the 5 chord, and of course D is the 1 chord. Okay, now you do not need to memorize everything I just said. You don't even have to think about it. You can just write some songs using those chord progressions, and that's great. If I'm helping you write your next hit song, I'm very proud of that. That's awesome. The AC Poet, you mentioned that like 2-5-1, like a jazz progression. Oh yeah, and the difference is might seem like a small difference. A jazz composer, instead of playing like D minor, G7, C, like at the bottom, they would expand upon those chords. I'm going to add notes to those chords. So instead of being a minor triad or a dominant 7, they might add another note. So it might be D minor 7 to G9 to C6. And what they're really doing is they're literally adding another note to the mix. That's all. You know, taking the D minor and adding another note or 2 notes. G7, same thing. That's why jazz sounds richer, fuller. That's why some people like it. Some people might not like it. It's a lot of information, you know, but it'd still be called the 2-5-1 chord progression. Yeah, you got it. Okay, so I want to add one more piece of information to the puzzle. Two more pieces of information. Number 1, please think of this thing we're talking about here, this 2-5-1 chord progression, as dominoes that tip and bump other dominoes. It's a great image with one very important new factor. You know how dominoes, they're all like the dominoes, right? They're all sort of the same shape and the same weight and this, you know, the dominoes, and they click against each other and they bump them. That's fine. To continue that metaphor, I have to say we're dealing with dominoes that specifically want to bump other dominoes and that they're meant to be bumping each other. A D7 very much wants to bump into a G domino. Doesn't want to bump into anything. It wants to bump into a G domino. So that's different than standard dominoes that you set up and they bump everything. Okay, so you okay with this? Until I come up with a better metaphor, this is what we're working with, folks. So a 2-5-1 chord progression is very specific dominoes. The first domino has to be a minor, like A minor. The second domino, it doesn't have to be a 7th chord, but it sounds so good when it is, you know, that minor chord bumping that 7th chord, and that 7th chord finally bumping, or you could say even like coming to rest against that major chord. Let's keep bumping them. Yeah, in fact, yeah. Let's not forget what I said about coming to rest. You'll see why in a second. Although there is a finality, you arrive at that major chord, and it feels like you've just accomplished something. Here comes A minor to D7 to G. You feel like you got somewhere. So in that sense, that final domino might stay standing. Why not? Okay, let's stick with that. Now, here's where it gets good. It's a pretty short song, right? A minor, D7, G, A minor, D7, G. Let's see how you guys are doing. It's been a long night. We've been here. Some of us have been here for over 90 minutes. Okay. A minor to D7. the D7 very much wants to bump into a G domino. What if instead of a G, the next chord after the D7 is, wait for it, a G7? Well, wait a minute. The listener was expecting D7 to go to G. If D7 goes to G7, this tension is still in the air. Oh, G7 wants to go to C. Whoa, weird, right? It's as if the composer didn't want to 100% meet your expectations, not too quickly. They wanted to extend your musical experience. So I'm about to play it for you. A minor to D7 to G7, and then to C. Here it comes. A minor, D7. There's the G7, C. Now without so much talking, 2 strums in each one. Are you allowed to do that? Yes. Do I encourage you to do that? Yes. You are having fun with chord progressions. You set up expectations, but you don't exactly meet them until you finally do resolve everything, right? Keeps life interesting, makes your songs longer, makes things... Now, you've heard this all the time. I can't emphasize enough that you have heard this in many, 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 many songs within the world of popular music. And at that time, you're enjoying it. You're not thinking, hey, that D7 chord set up some expectations that were not met. You're too busy enjoying the song, as you should be. But now you have a little sense for what's going on behind the scenes, so to speak. Fun, right? Could I do that again? Yeah, okay. You ready for one more? I know it's almost bedtime. Okay. Focus your eyes, please, on the second chord progression, E minor to A7 to D. Anybody guess what we're about to do? We're about to do it again, even longer. Okay. You ready? Okay. In E minor, I'm going to use my cursor just because it's fun. E minor. There we are. E minor. Hello, E minor. We're over here. Okay. E minor. Imagine a song that goes from E minor to A7, but instead of going to the D, it goes to D7 instead. Ooh, these dominoes are wobbly. Now, wait for it. Wait for it. D7 wants to go to a G domino, but what if it went to G7 instead? Whoa. And then eventually got to the C. So to recap, E minor to A7 to D7 to G7 and then to C. Trippy. What would that sound like? Let us investigate. E minor. I'll do it with talking and then no talking. E minor, 2 strums. A7, D7, G7, and then to C. And now with no talking. Cute, huh? Cute, right? So, and of course, there's a name for this. And to fully explain the name, 7th chords are also known as dominant chords. We never use that word really, but D7 should really be called D dominant 7, A dominant 7, G dominant 7. When we put in a dominant chord where it's not supposed to be, it's called a secondary dominant. And if we do that again, it's called a tertiary dominant, a third one, So just then we got E minor to A7. And when I went to the D7 instead, that would be a secondary dominant. When I went to the G7 instead, that would be the tertiary dominant, and then finally to C. Now, again, some of you are like, hey, you know what? That's an interesting chord progression. I'm going to do something with that. Sounds great. And some of you are thinking, yeah, but I like this music theory thing going on because it opens up possibilities. Even, you know, as you're writing a song, you might now have ideas for what you could do next. Like instead of just going on to what you might have done otherwise, you might say, "Ooh, now I'm going to do this thing otherwise and see what happens." Because we're relying so much on dominant seventh chords, whatever song you're going to write, it's potential it'll have this bluesy, jazzy little twist to it because I'm introducing multiple seventh chords in a row. No, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But it lends itself to that if you're playing that many seventh chords. Okay, so you guys okay with that? 2-5-1 chord progressions. Now with this bonus. Okay, final point. The thing we just did, E minor to A7 to D7 to G7 to C. You might say, what key is that? It started off in the key of D, right? E minor to A7, but then it didn't go to D. It went to D7 and so on. So what key is it? I guess I would have to say it's the key of C if you set this up so that your melody came to rest on that C chord. You gave the listener a sense you're finally home. Harmonically, it does sound like you're finally home when you get to that C. So if you made a point of that, you know, your melody concluded on that C chord, that's a pretty good argument you're in the key of C. But an A7 chord and a D7 chord are not in the key of C. That's described as borrowing chords from other keys, borrowing them so that your music is not boring. So instead of saying they're wrong chords, which is actually the kind of thing that I'm sure I have said in the past, playing, you know, wrong chords, now I think it's much more inclusive to say you're simply borrowing them from other keys. So you could say you're borrowing the A7 from the key of D, you're borrowing the D7 from the key of G, but the G7 gets you back to the key of C, you know. By the way, this can go on forever, right? Instead of playing C, you could play C7, and then the dominoes are still tipping. Well, where does the C7 want to go, you know? And then at a certain point, though, if you want to be a popular songwriter, writing songs that your family enjoys and that your neighbors want to hear at the barbecue, at a certain point, you got to call it and say, nah, you know, and wrap up your chord progression. Okay, speaking of wrapping up, I don't know, we didn't get to everything, but, you know, we got to a lot of stuff. Coming up next time, we'll talk about some of the world's 50 greatest guitarists. We will talk about Grammy nominations, just to whet your appetite. Some of the people who made the list here, who you may well be familiar with. Carlos Santana, Ali Farka Touré. Any Ali Farka Touré fans out there? Django Reinhardt, I mentioned before. Taj Mahal. Ooh, one of my favorite guitarists, Ernest Ranglin, known for his reggae guitar. John McLaughlin, Ry Cooder, of course. Oh, Mark Ribot. Any Mark Ribot fans out there? Oh, so I can't wait to share some of these with you guys. So much to talk about. Chris Smither, great fingerstyle guitar player, is going to be across the street this week. Chris Smither, I highly recommend checking him out on YouTube. Chris Smither, S-M-I-T-H-E-R. Madeleine Peyroux, great singer, is going to be across the street in a few days at the theater across the street. And she almost certainly is going to have a fantastic band with her. She certainly will. Madeleine Peyroux, I highly recommend checking her out. P-E-Y-R-O-U-X. Madeleine Peyroux. What didn't I get to? The Brooklyn Folk Festival in Brooklyn, New York, a few hours away from me. That happened today. Didn't have time to do that. What are you going to do? I was offered the opportunity to sell you guys energy drinks. I'm still not selling out, but a famous energy drink company did send me sort of a stock blanket email asking if I would be interested in selling their product to you guys. I'm going to let that one slide at the moment, but that was the big offer this week for Should I sell out? I'm going to pass on that. Okay, our poll results, in case you guys were curious before we wrap up, our poll results. Let me check my notes here. There we go. The question of the night was, how do you cure stage fright? 33% of you said practice, practice, practice. 13% said just tell yourself not to be afraid, meaning work it out psychologically. And I get that. 43% very honestly chose this option. I have no idea. I get it. I get it. We should talk about this more, in the future. The question was, how do you cure stage fright? And one of the options was, I have no idea. And 43% of you went for that one. And then 10% said other. And then I'm going to look over to see what you guys said in the chat regarding other methods of getting over stage fright. It's worth talking about because it's it's worth addressing if it's something that's holding you back. Well, I'm going to stop sharing this business. Wingo says Madeleine Peyroux's band should be called the Peyrouvians. I hope it is. I mean, maybe are you right? Is that what she calls her band? I hope she is. Joseph Martinez confirms she's fantastic. Well, she's going to be across the street this week. So much good music comes through this little town in Connecticut that I have to pick and choose because I would just spend, I would spend grocery money, mortgage money on these great performers who come through town. Sometimes it blows my mind that the level of talent that is a stone's throw right across the street. Okay, you guys. So we're going to have a great show next week. I'll get into these global guitar greats, courtesy of Songlines magazine. You guys know I love this magazine, so I want to give them credit because they're going to help me. They're going to help me help you. Songlines magazine, I highly recommend it. We'll talk about Grammy nominations. One thing I didn't know about that I learned from looking at who's been nominated for Grammys. Norah Jones has a new album out, I guess. I missed that detail. Mark Knopfler is nominated for a Grammy. I got to dig deeper into that and see what's going on with that. And then so many people who aren't quite as famous as Mark Knopfler and Norah Jones were nominated for Grammys. Can I pull this up? Of course I can. Okay. Check this out. There's the one I'm looking for. Okay, now this is not going to look super mind-blowing, but that's what I'm looking for. Okay. Share. Okay, see this list right here? This is like the press release version of it. So this is not it looks like a press release. But for example, Best Bluegrass Album, category 47. Best Traditional Blues Album. Look at these names. Some of them I'm sure are familiar to you guys. Some of them maybe not. Like, I don't know all these folks, I guess I know, well, I guess a lot of them are familiar. Oh, there's one. Okay. So in the Best Bluegrass Album, Sister Sadie. I want to, who's Sister Sadie, man? I want to hear who that is. I guess I do recognize a lot of the other names. But, man, I have no doubt, if you're nominated for a Grammy, I bet all 11 of these albums are terrific. Little Feat, okay, I got to admit, you guys, I didn't know Little Feat put out an album last year or this year, whenever. I didn't know. Look at all that. Okay, so that's something that I look forward to sharing with you guys and talking about in next time I see you. All right, let's call it a night. Thank you for being here. From me to you, I appreciate that. Don't forget, if you're going to shop at Sweetwater, use the affiliate link in the description of this video. And I thank you in advance. If you're looking to buy yourself a little something, this ebook and many other terrific ebooks are available from my website, www.song-bike.com. Christmas is coming. You guys, this book is full of so much Christmas stuff. You can get it downloaded to your computer instantly as a PDF. The Christmas Songbook, 31 songs, all arranged in 3 different forms. You can either pick out the melody of any one of these songs, easy peasy. You can strum the chords So you can sing along, everyone in the house can sing along, whatever, go Christmas caroling, or you can do a chord melody version of any one of those tunes. So 31 tunes, each one presented 3 different ways. You could do it as a duet, one person picking out the melody version, the other person doing the strumming. So 4 ways you could perform 31 Christmas tunes. Holy cow. Plus Old Lang Syne, which a lot of us consider to be a New Year's Eve tune. Hey, technically, Over the River and Through the Woods is a Thanksgiving tune. Lyrically, it mentions Thanksgiving. Oh, did I mention every song, all the lyrics? At least every verse, every lyric that I could find. I could go Jingle Bells. All the lyrics included. So it's November, folks. Don't wait to the last minute. If you have hopes of playing a couple of Christmas songs in time for Christmas, song-bike.com. Get yourself a copy of this book. I'm so proud of this book. Remember, it gets delivered to you as a PDF. It does not come in the mail. You get it instantly, and then you print out whatever you want to print out. All right. Hey, thank you, everybody, for being here. Before I say goodnight, I would like to say thank you to Wingo, DAC Poet, Joseph, Johnny, Scott, Beginner Guitar Lessons, our moderator. Thank you for being here. Rock Lobster, want to say thank you to Caddis. Thanks to my mom for watching. Thank you to my spouse for being our other moderator. All right, you guys, to be continued in the future. I will see you next Saturday for live stream number 73. I wonder what our 100th live stream, what are we going to do? Plenty of time to think about it, but I'm already excited about the 100th live stream. That'll be next year sometime. All right, you guys, thank you again for being here. See you next Saturday. Be well. Play your guitar. My weekend begins now. I hope you have a great weekend. See you next time.